conversation on our way home, and I'm like, people don't like their kids. Parents don't like to be parents. They don't take their kids anywhere. They don't want to engage with them. When they do take them places, it's to events that are not appropriate for kids.
When some people come out and say they don't want to have children, some people are like, you're selfish. You're selfish. Especially the ones that have the children. See some mothers, they'll be the very first person to tell you, why don't you have a child? Oh, try to have a child. Look at me, be like me. I had all my children once, just once. Try to have a child as well. Try to have, even if it's one, and even if you manage to have one, they don't stop there. They'll keep telling you, have more than one. One is not good. Let the child be bored. What am I trying to say is, some mothers are in fact, not even mothers, parents, they are bad at parenting, right? They are bad at parenting. They don't want these children, but they keep having them because they feel like they should have them, right? You have children, you send them out to go play. There's no guidance, nothing. And in this kind of crazy world, in this kind of things that we are seeing everywhere, you send your child out, like nobody. And then they'll be the ones to start telling you to have children. And when you tell them you don't want children, they look at you as if, why would you say you don't want children? As if you are not normal. Let me roll some clips for you all to watch to the end, and I'll be back to share my thoughts at the end of the video.
Yesterday, we decided to take our kids to the park, and while we're there, my daughter makes a little friend that seems to be around her same age. For reference, my daughter is 2.5, okay? So we're at the park, my daughter's playing with this little girl, and I'm looking around for a parent. You know, maybe her mom is around to introduce myself so we could watch our girls play together. And sure enough, this little girl is completely unattended. Now, when we first got there, she was with like an older cousin or maybe an older brother, but he was also a kid. So eventually he got up and started doing his own thing. And she was just kind of there with just me and my family. Now, like I said, this little girl could not have been more than 3 years old. And she was with us for maybe an hour, hour and a half, just basically being watched by us. And I'm like, oh my God, like how, I just don't understand how you take your kids to a public place and don't watch them. Parents do feel this false sense of security when they're at a large family event like a party or a barbecue, but if everyone is watching the kids, then no one is actually watching the kids. I watch a lot of crime TV, so my mind immediately goes to like, what if my kid gets abducted? But it's not always that serious. What if a child is just not being nice to your kid at the park? Or what if they fall and get hurt? Anyway, it's time for us to go home, and me and my husband are like, what are we going to do with this kid? Like, we don't want to leave her by herself. So we approached some of the older kids that had came back to the park from the barbecue, and we were like, hey, do you know this kid? And they're like, no, we don't know her. But then one of the older girls, she probably was like 15, 16. She's like, oh yeah, she's a part of our party. We got her. You guys are good. And I'm like, well, we've been watching her for an hour and a half, so we just want to make sure that when we leave, she's not going to be left unattended. We were having this whole conversation on our way home, and I'm like, people don't like their kids. Parents don't like to be parents. They don't take their kids anywhere. They don't want to engage with them. When they do take them places, it's to events that are not appropriate for kids. They view their children's emotional needs and wants as just inconvenience. They view their kids' tantrums as personal attacks on them. They don't want to play with their children. They don't want to read to their children. They don't want to engage with their children. They don't care. A lot of parents just don't care. They would rather be on here arguing about school supplies than actually teaching their kids how to read, because that's the school's job. Like parents, a lot of parents are just neglectful parents.
Coming from someone who used to work in a daycare, why are you having kids if you don't parent your kids? Some of these parents would come in and drop their kids off at 6 a.m. when we'd open and pick their kids up at 8 p.m. when we close. And their kid would call me their father because their mom and dad were so non-existent in their life. They'd call the teacher's mom because the parents just would take them home, they'd take a bath, and they'd go to bed. I'm not saying that daycare is bad. I'm just saying don't drop off your kid all day and do nothing with them and then ask us, why aren't we open on the weekends because you want to drop your kid off 24/7. I feel like that's a little crazy. I feel like you should be able to parent your own children. It feels like you're treating your kid like a pet almost. Like you wanted them in that exact moment, but then things got difficult. You had to do your job. So you hand them an iPad, you drive them to daycare, and you tell them bye. And you have no idea how much this kid talks about you when you're gone. Your kid could literally be like, oh, my mom plays on her phone all day, but it's okay, I still love her. I've had conversations with like 4-year-olds like that before. It's crazy what they believe. And it's actually so sad that you leave them like that. Like, you have to parent your kids. You can't just drop them off at daycare 24/7. to work in a daycare. Why are you having kids if you don't parent your kids?
I worked at a daycare as well for almost 6 years. It started when I was in high school until my early 20s. And there was 2 little boys that the dad would drop them off at 6 in the morning and then pick them up. We closed at 6 and he was always late. He would get there at like 6:10. He would immediately drive them to an overnight daycare. And then on the weekends, he would give them to his parents and they would spend the weekend with their grandparents. What's really sad about that is the mom just ended up leaving them. So he was used to working 24/7 because he had a wife and a mom to do everything for him. And then whenever it came down to what to do with the children and she just up and left him, he literally had the children in care 24/7. And the one older boy was probably one of the most vile LENT kids I've ever met in my entire life. He bit me probably 7 times. And I didn't get angry at him. He was a little boy. He didn't know any better. But he was so aggressive. He would hit the other children. There was one time I was in the older kids' room and there was a girl who she had Down syndrome. She was sitting there coloring and his dad dropped him off and he was so angry about it. He grabbed her by the back of her ponytail and went crazy on her. And it was like 2 other teachers had to help pull this boy off this girl who did absolutely nothing to him. I think that he knew in that moment that he wasn't going to see his dad for days and days and days and was that angry about it. And I'm not hating on daycare. Like, daycare is very helpful for working parents. I see it. It's honestly really sad what it does to children.
I don't have a problem in taking your child to daycare because I always preach to mothers that because you have children does not mean you should not work, right? And because you're married does not mean you should not have your own work. So if your work requires you to leave the house, because we know that women are the only ones that take care of children, right? They are the only ones that stay at home and take care of children. Let's just be realistic, because these men, they won't do it. And even when they do it, they always want to do it maybe once in a year. Anyways, I always preach to women, please have a job, So I don't have a problem with taking your child to daycare, but I have a problem when you're taking your child to daycare 24 hours. After the morning daycare, you take them to 9 shifts. When do you spend time with your children? When do you try to educate them? When do you what's the essence of having children? I personally feel like there's no need for having children. You can take your child to daycare for 6 hours, 5 hours in a day, or it depends on how free you are, or if there's nobody, especially if you're a single mom and there's nobody to take care of your child, nobody to stay at home with your children, you can take them to daycare while you go hustle and work, because you cannot just stay at home and not do anything. However, there are other works you can do working from home, but it's not everybody that is privileged to be able to have the opportunity to work from home. But if you can, go out there and work and all of that, is always advisable to time yourself. But I don't see why you have to, put your child, but this was actually a father, right? Puts his child after day care, night care. When then later weekend, the children are with the parents. When do you spend time? When do you educate? When do you talk to your children? What is the point of having children? See, this is the thing. There's no point of having children if you don't have plans of raising them. That is why before you have children, ask yourself, am I fit? Am I really fit to have children? These are the questions most parents do not ask themselves before having children, before deciding to have children. They just feel like, oh, we're married, let's have children. Oh, we love ourselves, let's have a mini-me. Some even have it for aesthetics. You see some people post their babies on Instagram, and you see people say, oh, my ovaries, just because it's very cute, it's aesthetically pleasing in their eyes. They feel like, oh, because this baby is cute, oh, I want to have a daughter so that I can be having a mini-me, my daughter and I. That is the only reason these people are having children. And they don't really forget that the daughters will grow old, or sometimes daughters might not even have your time that you want to be doing daughter mini-me, me and my daughter or something. Most of the time, it's not always the way it is on social media. Anyways, most people don't actually think about the reason why they want to have children, to just, have them because of society's sake. And this is the repercussion. This is what happens when you don't think before you have children. First of all, you don't even spend time with your children. Like, you just leave them anyhow, and a lot of things can just happen to them. A lot of things can happen to them and they don't even, that you are not even going to know, because how can you have your eyes on them when you're not even with them 24 hours? And even if you're with them, you send them out to go play. That's why you see elder sisters and like the second mothers, because they are the ones that always look after the little ones, right? How many things does the elder sister knows? Because maybe the other sister is just 2 years or 3 years older than the other siblings. She has to take care of them like she's taking care of her child. And that is so annoying. That's why you see when somebody gives birth to a child and is a daughter, they'll be like, oh, don't worry, just have another child. You already have a daughter. She's going to help you. These are the things that they say, and because it's normal, and they keep saying it in now, like they don't even want you as a person to actually want to have that child. They just feel like, oh, have the child because it is a normal thing, because the society wants you to have the child. And some will even tell you that your biological clock is ticking, so just have the child before you get to a stage whereby you cannot have children again. I just feel like all these are just calm to allow women to just lose their life and everything. But that is not what we're talking about. My own is that, why even crave in, why have a child if you cannot take care of the child? It is really wickedness for me. If you have children that you cannot take care of, you're not available for them with your time, mentally, physically, you're not available for them, then why are you having them? And you still see this kind of people who still keep getting pregnant. They will still keep getting pregnant because they feel like, oh, let me just do what I want to do so that I can be free. But they are not even paying attention to the ones that they have already bet in front. What is your take on parents that are not a good parenting? Let me know your thought down in the comment section respectfully. And thank you all so much for tuning in today's video. I hope you enjoyed this one. And don't forget to like and share and subscribe. It's your favorite girl again, Maria Davids. And yeah, I'll see you all in my next video. Bye.